What's up, guys? I am a sucker for a good cyberpunk movie. Loved Blade Runner. Was a pretty big fan of Ghost in the Shell, the remake. So, Alita Battle Angel, is it good? Let's do this. Alita Battle Angel stars Rosa Salazar, Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, and it's directed by Robert Rodriguez. What's up, guys? Been getting a lot of requests to review this one over the weekend. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. But this one will be dedicated to MG Angel 2 on Instagram. He sent me a DM and he asked me if I would dedicate this one to him. This movie means a lot to him. So, absolutely. This one's for you, brother. But Alita Battle Angel is the latest cyberpunk movie. Now, this one's produced by James Cameron, directed by Robert Rodriguez. James Cameron originally was going to do this movie, I believe, before Avatar. This was something that he was planning like way back in the 90s, and I think he was even going to direct it at one point. And I kind of wish he would have done this one instead of Avatar, because I think I prefer this. Avatar's good, but it's just, you know, it feels long. There's a lot to take in. The subject matter is pretty, you know, sad, drab at times. But this is really just a fun, good old action movie with a little bit beneath the surface, and we're going to get into all that. And let me just say right off the gate, guys, from seeing the first trailer for this, I thought visually it looked really interesting, but it looked like one of those movies that there wasn't going to be much beneath the surface. So I wasn't that hyped for it. I was still going to go see it. My son happens to be a huge anime fan. And like I said, I'm a big cyberpunk fan. So I was still going to go see it, but I was going in very cautiously. And let me just say, this movie delivered. It might be one of the biggest surprises of the year so far for me. It might be my favorite movie of the year so far. I'm still trying to figure out if I like this one better than Glass or not, because I really enjoyed Glass too, but this might be better. But first, quick plot synopsis. Now, picture this if you will. Alita Battle Angel takes place centuries from now, you know, but the thing you really need to know about is this event called the Fall. And because of this catastrophic event on Iron City, it seemed like most of the population was either half cyborg and half human. There was just a big mixture there, you know. There were very few humans. And a good bit of the economy was based around these games called Motorball, because a lot of the people were cyborgs. This is a world where humans and cyborgs mix and coexist and all that good stuff. But, you know, in terms of like world building, this is really interesting, actually. And visually speaking, it's glorious to look at. And not in the way that like Avatar is, where, you know, Pandora is like this beautiful, shiny looking place. No, this is a world that is, you know, decayed and decrepit. But then you have this character, Alita. This guy, Ito, he goes to this scrapyard at the beginning of the movie, and he finds Alita. Really, he just finds her head and a little bit of her chest and puts her back together with parts that he had made for his daughter. You see, Ito is actually like this doctor, and he fixes people. He gives them cybernetic limbs. And so really this is kind of a coming of age story. Alita wakes up, she's got this new body, but it's really a case of like she doesn't know who she is, she doesn't know where she came from. She doesn't really have any memories from her past, but she has a deep past. She is over 300 years old. She existed before the Fall. And she was this great warrior known as a berserker. And this is stuff that she figures out along the way in the movie. And you know, guys, this is nothing new. There have been quite a few of these types of movies. You're going to get vibes from The Matrix. You're going to get vibes from Serenity. You're going to get vibes from Blade Runner. It's all there. You know, really the best parts of those movies are all there. But there's also this Underworld. When you have like a dystopian world like this, you're going to have crime. And so there is this crime world where really this character named Vector, he is a businessman and he sells parts on the black market for these games in Motorball. And so he has these henchmen that do his work for him. And a lot of these characters are really interesting, actually. But Jennifer Connelly plays Chirin. She was actually married to Ito. And after their daughter died, they couldn't really handle it. They split up. And she ended up working for Vector and on the black market. And so there's this like emotional tug of war between these two characters. But let's talk about these Underworld henchmen, because I found them really interesting, actually. First off, I guess their leader is this guy named Zapan, played by Ed Skrein. And he's supposed to be like the most powerful of them. Really, their job is just to go and they rip people limb from limb. They rip humans limb from limb. They rip cyborgs, you know, and it's all for sale. And so Alita, when she gets wind of this, this is when she first really discovers her powers and she fights these guys. Really, there's so many great action scenes in this movie. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but the one that I really loved was the bar scene. Just because there's a lot to play with in that scene, the action is so amazing in the best way that Robert Rodriguez can present action. That's one thing that I knew was going to be good about this, the fact that Robert Rodriguez directed it, because he did one of my favorite movies, Sin City. And Sin City is just a fun-ass ride. And that scene really had that edge to it, you know, because this is a PG-13 movie, but it feels like an R movie. I mean, there's some pretty gruesome shit going on in Alita. But one of my favorite scenes is when, you know, she's fighting all these people in this bar. You got these dogs with the great Jeff Fahey. He's like this dog handler. One thing you're going to get with Robert Rodriguez movies is interesting characters. From Dusk Till Dawn is another great example. And so he has a lot of his usual suspects in this movie. But she fights this big hulking, he looks like Mecha Hulk, Gruiska, played by Jackie Earle Haley. That fight, I don't want to give anything away, but I'll just say, like, the end punch on that fight sent me cheering. I think it really sealed the deal as far as how much you love Alita as a character in this. And really, let's get right down to it. You know, this is, you could give us all these great special effects, you know, and all this great world building, but if you don't have characters that you get behind that you love, then it's all going to fall apart. And luckily, Alita was such a likable character. She's like this gullible teenager at the beginning of the movie. She's got this hots for this this kid, Hugo. Really, a lot of the movie is her and Hugo and building their relationship with each other. But it's fun watching these naive characters find themselves. And she does. She finds out that she was this great berserker. And she goes through all these character moments throughout, you know, these life-altering moments, and really discovers who she really is. And who she really is badass. I mean, this might be the best cyberpunk movie I've seen since The Matrix. I'll go ahead and say that. And one reason The Matrix was so great is because Neo was a very likable character. And I think likable characters, it all comes down to relatability. If there's something about this character that you can relate to, you know, everybody can relate to wanting to stand up for the little guy. That's what Alita wants to do. You know, she's fearless. And there are these moments in this movie where you get chill bumps because of how big her heart is. Literally, there's a movie where she pulls her heart out and shows it to Hugo. And it was a little awkward, but awesome. Now, also, I will say, they had some balls when they made this movie because they set it right up for a sequel. And there's this character named Nova who lives in this city in the sky called Zalem, which, another thing that reminded me of The Matrix, you know, like Zion. Zion's where the party's going to be. And this Zalem's where the party's going to be. So Nova, where all the rich people live, they live in this sky city called Zalem. And really, Nova like feeds off the weak people of Iron City. You know, he even like mentally possesses some people, including Vector. Without spoiling anything, I will say they set this thing right up for a sequel, specifically in terms of the character of Nova. And I was super excited. I hope to God we get a sequel to this movie, actually. But the problem is, most of the time, cyberpunk movies don't perform that well. Ghost in the Shell, which definitely had its problems, didn't live up to expectations financially. So the last one that I can think of that was financially a success is The Matrix. Even Blade Runner 2049, as great as that movie is, it was my favorite movie of that year, it did not perform well at the box office. That's what I'm afraid of with Alita. But guys, you know what? I almost gave this movie a super high purchase worthy, but I cannot get it out of my head. You know, I'm still kind of like elated from the experience of watching it. I wish I would have watched it in IMAX. So I'm going to give it a Trapped on an Island, actually. It was awesome. And I was really worried. I didn't really go over like the love story between Alita and Hugo. And I thought that was going to be really cheesy. And yes, there is like maybe one or two scenes that are kind of cheesy, but to me it works pretty well, much the way that like Jack and Rose worked in Titanic. For some reason, they were able to pull it off. So anyway, guys, post in the comments your thoughts on Alita. Have you seen it? Did you love it as much as I do? I freaking loved it. And just to give him a shout out, there was a guy on Twitter, Austin Finley. He's like, was I the only guy that did not like Alita? And I responded to him saying, yes, you were the only person that didn't like Alita. But I was just kidding, because I'm sure there's a couple people out there that don't like this movie, but I freaking loved it. It surprised the hell out of me. And like I said, it might be my favorite of the year. Anyway, guys, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And I hope we get a new Tool album in April or May.